Welcome to the White Knight Theater. Furman suddenly acted this way because his superior made personnel adjustments, and a black person became his leader. He refused to accept the blood sample of O.J. previously collected by the police, which was supposed to be 8 milliliters, but now only has 6.5 milliliters, a shortage of 1.5 milliliters. Did the police really do that? We'll see in court. The bloodstains on the socks were proven to have been smeared, and the blood sample O.J. left with the police happened to be 1.5 milliliters short. Furman was internally accused of having a racial bias, and it was he who led the other detectives to climb over the fence into Rockingham. Two dramatically tense coincidences have already formed. In the upcoming trial, how will the prosecution and defense each try to win the jury's support from their own perspectives? What did Dr. Lee say when he was examined in court? But are you sure you want to do this? Let Furman testify? Come on, I solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony I will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Swearing complete. Dr. Lee, can you talk about your findings at the first crime scene on Bundy Drive? I found a second type of unfamiliar footprint on Bundy Drive. There were several shoe prints whose type and size were clearly different from the others, with a unique parallel line pattern on the soles. Based on your years of experience, what do you think this indicates? More than one person was at the crime scene that night, which means that there could have been 2 or more people involved in the murders. Dr. Lee's answer once again confirmed that the police made multiple mistakes during the investigation, leading to the blood evidence and DNA test results being insufficient to prove the case. Dr. Lee, from a professional standpoint, can you talk to us about the handling of blood evidence in the Simpson case during the investigation? Generally speaking, bloodstains at a crime scene should be collected with a damp cotton swab. The cotton swab, after collecting the blood, should be thoroughly dried before being bagged and sealed. Otherwise, bacteria and fungi will corrode the blood sample. When I examined the blood evidence in this case, I found blood on the paper containers holding the swabs, which indicates that these samples were not properly dried before being bagged and sealed. May I understand it this way? This indicates that the criminalists of the Los Angeles Police Department did not follow the correct procedures when collecting and handling the blood evidence in the Simpson case. At least they did not carry out the rapid drying procedure when dealing with the blood samples. In addition to this, do you have any other findings? Some of the blood on the paper containers does not match the samples. What do these findings indicate? It is possible that there was a mistake in the collection of the blood samples, and it is possible that the blood samples were not properly stored and were left in a high-temperature environment for too long, causing them to deteriorate. Can it be said that these blood samples were tampered with? I think these situations are a bit unusual, but I cannot draw more conclusions. According to the federal and California state evidence laws in the United States, evidence in criminal cases is generally divided into direct evidence and circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence refers to evidence that can prove the case in a direct rather than inferential manner, such as a witness who saw the perpetrator commit the crime. Circumstantial evidence is evidence that proves the case through inference or reasoning, such as fingerprints, footprints, and bloodstains left at the crime scene. Circumstantial evidence is also known as indirect evidence. The O.J. Simpson case is a typical circumstantial evidence case. There were no eyewitnesses, and the prosecution had to rely on the blood samples, physical evidence, and various experimental data collected by the police based on these pieces of evidence to charge Simpson. Under this premise, the prosecution must form a logical, coherent, and mutually corroborative chain of circumstantial evidence to exclude all possibilities that the defendant could not be involved in the crime. Only in this way can the case be accurately proven, and the jury can be persuaded to convict and sentence the defendant. However, a series of courtroom examinations by the defense team quickly spread through the media. Subsequently, more mistakes made by the police during the investigation were exposed one after another. The latest news on the Simpson case. The Los Angeles Police Department admitted that there were many violations in the evidence collection process at the crime scene. A large number of drugs were collected from different scenes and counted, resulting in some evidence being lost 1 or 2 months after the crime. According to insiders, The evidence collected at the crime scene in the Simpson case was stored in a van without refrigeration for 3 hours. Experts say that this behavior is very likely to have completely damaged the evidence before it was sent for testing. At the same time, we found through the crime scene photos that the storage cabinet for physical evidence did not have an appeal, and anyone could get close. We randomly interviewed several ordinary people on the street. Now, let's listen to the voices of the people. If you grew up in Los Angeles, you must have heard this saying, "The Los Angeles Police Department can do anything to black people." O.J. Simpson's blood sample was taken back to the crime scene. What do you think? Is there any doubt? Did O.J. Simpson really murder 2 people? Or did the prosecution's assumptions never actually happen? Did they arrest the wrong person? Oh, this Simpson case, I think it's time for our DNA expert, Paris Schechter, to step in. Previously, he pressured Dennis Fung through cross-examination, forcing him to admit in court that Simpson's blood sample had been taken back to the crime scene, greatly reducing the credibility of the circumstantial evidence of Simpson's blood found at the crime scene. Subsequently, the defense continued this strategy, and with the help of media coverage of the trial, the American public learned that there were many problems with the prosecution's chain of circumstantial evidence. Under the leadership of Paris Schechter, the defense team continuously conveyed an idea to the jurors. O.J. Simpson is innocent. The prosecutors will surely refute what I just said in a moment. The defense lawyer will say that the police tampered with the gloves, and then they will say that the police deliberately left the suspect's blood sample at the crime scene. It's all nonsense and baseless. We are now proving to you who is actually talking nonsense. This strategy put the prosecution in a very passive position. At this point, Prosecutor Marcia decided to have Furman testify to turn the tide. Furman, who was involved in the entire process on the night of the crime, should have testified earlier, but because of Furman's past experiences, the prosecution had been hesitant about whether to call this key witness to testify. And within the prosecution, the opinions of several prosecutors had also never been unified. Until now, Marcia had to take a leadership stance and order on behalf of the entire prosecution for Furman to testify. Marcia, we need to rethink this. Furman, listen to me. Marcia, Furman is not suitable to testify. Everyone now knows that Johnny and Lee Bailey are eager to collect evidence of Furman's racial discrimination around the clock. I understand that you've had a tough few weeks, but you can't change our interrogation strategy because of this. Don't let it affect you. Are you willing to listen to me for a few more minutes? As long as you don't mention Furman again, you can say whatever you want. In the 1970s, when I was in law school, the introduction of affirmative action was a big deal. I remember this. Black people could enter good universities with lower scores, wanting to protect disadvantaged groups. But you don't know what this meant to me because you're white. I worked hard and got into that school on my own, but everyone around me didn't think so. They just thought I was given preferential treatment. Every day, when I walked into the classroom, everyone was staring at me as if I had taken a white person's spot. It felt terrible, and I'll never forget it. You don't need to use this to bring back that feeling again, to humiliate me in front of all the cameras and tens of millions of people. But he was wrong, and all the others who doubted you were wrong too. You were involved in the Simpson case because of your intelligence, your dedication, and your integrity. That's why I invited you to join. It has nothing to do with race, and it has nothing to do with Furman's ambiguous racial remarks in the past. Thank you. But are you sure you want to do this? Let Furman testify. He can help us win. I forgot to teach you. What we need to deal with now is Furman. I believe Furman can demonstrate the professionalism expected of a seasoned detective in court. After Detectives Vaniter and Lang, the two main detectives in charge of the Simpson case, were successively found to have flaws by the defense, Detective Furman became the prosecution's last card. Not only is Furman extremely media-focused, but if he can perform well in court, it can reverse public opinion. More importantly, Furman found the key piece of evidence at the Rockingham crime scene, the bloodied right-hand glove. If the prosecution wants to use the glove as evidence to decisively prove Simpson's guilt, Furman will inevitably have to testify, and they need to use every means to get ahead of the defense. Make Furman a reliable prosecution witness first. Darden decided to assist Marcia in conducting a mock examination of Furman to prepare for the trial. Detective Furman, what is your opinion on interracial marriages between black and white people? I don't mind. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Is there something to mind about it in the first place? I mean, I have no opinion because they're no different from other couples. Detective, can you answer the question quietly? Stop knocking on the table. Thank you very much. Detective, what are your hobbies? I like collecting World War II memorabilia, mainly medals. Do you have a favorite athlete?